In Bulgaria, there are many dangerous creatures that rock in the night, such as werewolves. Even some raven creatures hiding out there. But the most dangerous of all the creatures in Bulgaria is the dangerous, deadly bunny rabbit. Or as he's known in game, is just the rabbit, as you can tell. I think this clip right here shows a good portion of the comedy that goes in this game as you fight a tiny yet ferocious killer rabbit. If you want to watch that over again. But where are my manners? This is The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing, developed by Neocore Games, mostly known for their King Arthur series, both King Arthur 1 and 2, and the boatload of DLCs that have gone with those games. And The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing is an action RPG with a heavy emphasis on style and definitely humor, as you can see there with that rabbit. And the game does do a nice job of setting itself apart from some of its competitors out on the market currently. Since it's not medieval, and the game does not go Greek, it doesn't go Dark Ages, it actually picks out its own special place in time. But when it goes to 19th century steampunk, it keeps it, a nice diverse pace, and especially with the big hats and the capes. And there's definitely some inspiration from the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman in it, but this is pretty much all for the better to the style of the game, since it's able to distinguish itself from many of its competitors on that stylistic aspect.
So, this is your purse? Well, I found it for you.
Believe me, I know your favorite song. Listen.
And the music itself is also another great part of the style. As good music in a game should, it'll help increase the tension when you're in battle, and it helps drive the progress of your character's story along when you hear good music. And this music, not only is it just great music to listen to, it pairs very well with the visual side of the game. And here's a little snippet of some of the music that is presented. The main story of the game revolves around a mad scientist who wants to create an ultimate machine using the latest technology they have at that time to pretty much take over the world. He is very crazy. He makes an interesting nemesis, even though you don't really see him till the latter half of the game. He's still an interesting foe nonetheless. The other interesting part of the story of the game is your ghost companion Katerina, who acts like a pet in, say, like Torchlight 2, where she can return to town to sell off items. She'll help you attack creatures in either an attack, melee, ranged, or even as like a defense mode that boosts your resistances. Overall, she's a nice addition to the gameplay. And the looting and gear system of the game tend to flow fairly well as you're progressing. And standard stat arrangements where you can boost like your body, so like your health, luck, general critical hits, and your mana. So it's pretty general as far as that goes. There are a couple caveats, such as the ability to refine your simple skills or spells and give them a little bit extra abilities that can do more damage or have a greater area of effect based off of your rage meter, which builds up as you kill enemies. but it is a nice change of pace since you will need to use usually a mix of these skills to combat most of your foes. And there are also things such as auras, which act as permanent stat buffs, but you can only have 2 equipped at a time, so that makes a little bit of choice you have to have in there and strategy before you get into the battle. And then there are also tricks, which act as spells, but usually have a significantly longer cooldown time. So again, a little bit more strategic use as far as tricks go, but from those you can get heals, or one of them's even like a speed rush. You can burst through some enemies and deal some damage along the way, but very long cooldown times on those tricks. There's also a set of permanent buffs known as perks, and those actually have a separate bar than your regular XP bar, but as you do different things throughout the game, you'll level up and you'll be able to pick some, such as like you regenerate your mana and health like 10% faster, or Katarina recovers from death 20% faster. Nothing super game changing, but over time they can definitely add up and help.
Leave this dumb of ours. We mustn't let him have it now. Come in, Arches, my precious, but we take care of us with you.
The element that makes this game different than a lot of the other action RPGs out there is just this game throws mass amounts of mobs at you. Just tons. Look at this. You just get swarmed. You will die in this game. You will die a lot. Sure, you have a lot of abilities and a lot of different ways you can use them to take these guys out. There are so many enemies. You just get swarmed. After a while, you just get hit by so many different things. It gets very hard to get past some areas where it just takes a long time of just whittling down all the enemies that are around and just trying to work your way through, because this game throws so much at you. And that's what makes one of the biggest advantages to combat in this game is you just use your movement. You have to move around. It's kind of like backpedaling, even though it's an action RPG, so you can't really backpedal the same way. I don't see how a lot of these mobs can be defeated. Even with using melee weapons, which do increase your chance to dodge hits, it did not seem to be enough. I tried very hard to max out my dodge stats to see if I could survive some of these mods. No, I was still getting just destroyed. I had to just keep running and shooting with poison cloud shots. Nothing else seemed to have worked. Now just get a second now just to look at some of these mobs that I had to face. This is just ridiculous. So much damage you have to deal to take these guys out, and a lot of times if you just stand there, you will be killed in seconds. Now, as you can see from this mob right here, from all these rats, they are draining my mana and they move extra fast, plus they have more life than a standard creature. All that combined makes a pretty pesky fight, since I get resorted to using a lot of my basic attacks, since my mana gets depleted very quickly by them, and they can just keep rushing and hitting you, so I had to also keep using potions and healing myself along the way. But this is just a small example of how intense it can get from some of the mobs you have to fight in this game. And now for the most hated foe. And now for my most hated foe section, I wanted to showcase the Igor creature, which easily was the most annoying out of everything in the game, even though there were lots of creatures who were really close to earning this award with the amount of spamming attacks and speed and mana draining that happened in this game. Those Igor creatures were some of the worst, mainly because they were able to tank damage to an extreme amount. Plus they were resistant to poison, which was my main character build's way of attack. But even if you take that away, very annoying. And if you get close to them, they spray you with like an acid poison flamethrower that'll just drain your health in seconds. The best thing, I guess, about them, for even though they are in my opinion, the worst foe in this game, they are slow. So you can go around them very easily and flank them, and they're not able to turn and attack you all the time. But especially when they are mixed in a group of enemies, very, very annoying and tough to kill with a very high amount of life. And now, here's another angry mob. No, just kidding. It's part of some closing statements. Want to show and also mention that they did add controller support to the game after a little while, which you can see that the HUD gets changed up a little bit. Nice addition. I was surprised. It played very well with the controller in hand. I would assume you would have to use an Xbox 360 controller or a modded controller that can use that. And aside from, I did have a couple quests that it didn't allow me to finish with a controller, but it seemed like those did kind of get patched out. Using the controller worked very well, and it also had a redesigned menu system, which again, I think you get a little bit limited compared to the mouse and keyboard when going across the menu and looking at loot. Overall, it is a nice addition, especially for people who are a little bit more console-centric in terms of playability for PC. And if you want yourself an action RPG that'll give you some good laughs and some good fights along the way, check out The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing. So all you have to do is ask your local librarian, go on Steam. That's probably the best place to get it. And go have yourself a great time. Thanks for watching my video, and remember, there's always more to come.